Welcome, everyone. My name is Niles Parker. I'm the Gosnell Executive Director at the Nantucket Historical Association, and a real pleasure to welcome all of you who are here in person today, joining us on Nantucket, and those of you from around the world who are joining us online. We'll be speaking this afternoon about the participants' work on Nantucket and specific Nantucket buildings, and tomorrow you'll be hearing from them in a longer session about their independent projects and those case studies that they brought with them from their home countries. Pretty exciting. We have every continent except Antarctica represented, I think we figured out. Amazing to me how, to meet all of you, to see you work, and I think more than that, to see how you bonded as a group over the last 4 weeks. That was something I didn't quite expect, and I think it's one of the greatest takeaways that I'll remember from this, and seeing how you've all met, and I think some lifelong friendships have been formed. And as it relates to how we as organizations and individuals work on issues like this collectively, it gives me a lot of hope for how we can think about, exploring the problems we all face independently, but then doing it as part of a collaborative, collective effort. And so really grateful to stay in touch and see how this expands going forward. It's also interesting to note that you've had an amazing month of weather as far as Nantucket goes. And then today it's starting to rain. So it's been so dry, we've had drought, and you're already seeing some sort of low scale flooding taking place outside the door. And we had sunny day flooding the other day with the full moon and the high tide. So, I think really relevant for the work that we're talking about today. I did want to thank those who are here as well, who represent various organizations from Nantucket and individuals from Nantucket who shared your time and expertise with our participants, sharing what's going on here on the island, as well as for those of you online who have done the same and making your work available to our group. It's been tremendously enlightening and very, very helpful to this process. So thank you to all of you. Want to say to our group today, don't worry about too formal a presentation. Keep the vibe cool. I know you guys now. I can see the humor and the laughter. So if something messes up, don't worry about it. We'll work through it. This is a work in progress. We're not done today, right? So we'll keep that good humor and that good work going forward. It's my great pleasure now to introduce Glenn Bornasian from ICR-ICC and Rohit Jigyasu from ICCROM, our partners on this program, and without whom this couldn't have happened. These guys have put in an unbelievable amount of time, not just over these 4 weeks, but in the months leading up to it. So I owe a deep debt of gratitude to you both for your work in pulling this off. It's a true pleasure working with you, and I'm excited to see where this all goes. So with that, Glenn and Rohit.
No, thank you, Niles. And it's been an honor to work with you and the Nantucket Historical Association and ICCROM. I thought I would just take a moment to sort of reflect how we got here, because I think it's really important. And what's shocking to me is that the process started almost just about a year and a half ago, when Marty Hilton at the National Park Service and Niles and I and some others believe that a good step forward to making progress with bringing information onto the ground and to be able to link global information to local information so that we could do quick assessments and take conservation actions for cultural heritage to actually conserve and stabilize structures that are exposed to the changes that climate is bringing. And so we had a symposium here in December of last year, and after that felt that we were all excited about taking a next step, and it was the three of us who really, as Niles was saying, worked really, really hard together with some financial support and from NHA and others. And then we had the group here last year who got us to understanding Nantucket as a whole and what different zones of exposure there are, what historic structures in those zones are representative of the island, and then leading to the installation of a monitoring system that gives us real site-specific data that can help us, again, connect global and local information, but understand how to develop methods and materials for those structures. And if we can, take what we learned from a pilot project and then expand it out, the belief is that we can affect many structures, not just on Nantucket, but use that data to connect with other places in the United States and with ECROM to possibly connect with other similar locations in the world or around the world. I have to say that this month has been incredible. It feels like 2 days, but the amount of work that you all have accomplished and built on what we've done so far and taking it back home with you is an overwhelmingly wonderful feeling and makes me feel like all of us, like we're making a little impact somewhere, and maybe this will grow exponentially. So again, thank you for your time and for your expertise and for your commitment. And I look forward to creating this community that we continue to be in touch and help each other solve whatever issues we're dealing with from the perspective that we've taken. I don't know, Rohit, would you like to say it?
Thank you very much, Glenn. And I would just like to add the same feelings that it's been a real honor and an exceptional opportunity to do this course. We've made it finally. It was a dream that we managed to get realized. So I just would like to say that ECROM as an intergovernmental organization is really committed not to just use this as a training course that happened here for 4 weeks, but as something that can start something very global, because we need it not only for Nantucket, for US, but for the whole world. This is a challenge the humanity is facing. So you all are becoming ambassadors in a way. I will just share the methodology that we followed for those who are listening to the presentation, so you will understand how we went about it. So our idea was to really look into two aspects. One was using Nantucket as a living lab to do group exercises on the island, and then each one of the participants looking into their own case study sites and using the lessons from the island and tailoring them to their own context of heritage and also their social, economic, and institutional context. So today's presentations are really centered around the three groups that looked at three different areas on the island. In that area, for each group, there was a area level investigation and there was a building level investigation. And then from those investigations, which were primarily around conditions, where detailed analysis were done in terms of the cause and effect of different deteriorations, damages that were investigated, and also a bit of testing that was done to really understand what is happening to the materials and the structures. And from that information, exposure and vulnerability to the main climate stressors on the island were really looked at, so that it becomes something very rooted on what is happening on the ground. Because our one of our main issue when we started even discussing about this was that there's a lot of discourse on climate change at a higher level, but it doesn't get translated into what should we do at the ground level, what should be those practices that site managers need to take into consideration while they of course do their day-to-day practice, but climate risks have to be integrated into what they do on day-to-day basis. So that was the reason why this has really been based around observations and professional work done at the site level and at the building level. So based on that climate risk assessment, participants, each group developed a risk statement, which is really trying to explain what are the projections in the future and what would be the impact on heritage because of those projections. So that was the scientific way we wanted to go about it. And based on those statements, which we call climate risk statements, they all came up with climate adaptation and mitigation solutions, which are considering not only the technically sound solutions, but also solutions which are economically, socially, and institutionally sustainable. because it's very important to keep those considerations. We cannot just go with only technology as the answer. So this was the basis for the entire exercise that we did. And we are very happy that now each group is ready to present all the journey that they have been through in these 4 weeks for these group exercises. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It has been, first of all, it has been an absolute pleasure spending the last 4 weeks here on this beautiful island. The warmth and the hospitality of the all community member here were just amazing, as well as the incredible team at the NHA. Have truly made this experience unforgettable. I want to thank everyone who supported this project and welcomed us to the community. Today, we present our work titled Preserving the Past, Condition Assessment and Climate Adaptation and Resilience, Strategies for Nantucket Historic Candle Factory. This project forms part of the International Training Course on Climate Action for Sustainable Built Heritage Conservation and Management. And we aim here to analyze, understand, and propose strategies to safeguard the candle factory, which is an iconic part of Nantucket historical and cultural landscape. So before going deep, I would like to introduce you to our group. So we have Jose Alonso from Madrid, Spain. We have Catherine Huntsman from Sydney, Australia. And we have Andrea Richards from Bridgetown, Barbados. And we have me, myself, Mona Zahrani from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So we will go through the contents as you see here. So I'll talk about the location and the significance of the candle factory. So the candle factory is located on closer to a very critical location, which is constantly affected by rising sea levels. Here are some images we grabbed from the Nantucket collection and also from Google Maps. You see on the left-hand side a sketch from 1960s of the south elevation in Broad Street, and the present day picture of the south elevation of the building. Here is also another snippet also we got from the NHA collection, a photograph from the 1880s of the east and north elevation before the addition of the upper windows and showing extended granite near fence. And this is the current view, the present day. As you can see, it's covered. Here is also other images of the different elevations of the candle factory. These are the interior views showing different floor levels throughout. Now, none now directly connect or support the north wall, which is on that side. So the significance of the site, the candle factory, which is built on the 1869, represent Nantucket's rich maritime heritage as part of the Hadwin and Barney oil and candle factory. It played a pivotal role in the island's 18th and 19th century whaling industry. The factory symbolizes the innovation, prosperity of its time, producing whale oil products that supported both local and global economies. Today, the building is beautifully integrated into the Nantucket Whaling Museum. It's preserved its 19th century facade, and Triworks are a testament to adaptive reuse, continuing to educate and inspire as part of the NHA's mission. At this point, I'd like to hand over the presentation to Andrea Richards, who will guide us through the material assessment and condition analysis of the candle factory. Andrea?
So in order for us to fully understand what we're looking at for the condition assessment, we need to understand the materials that we're looking at. So we did this by elevation. So in the north elevation that you're looking at, this comprises, asphalt shingles, timber eaves, brick masonry and mortar, single glazed timber windows, timber doors, granite lintel, granite masonry and mortar, and metal guttering. As well as we have the chimney, masonry chimney. For the south elevation, we have again brick masonry and mortar, single glazed windows, timber windows, and granite lintel, timber doors, and timber eaves. We also did the eastern elevation where we had some slate shingles, brick masonry and mortar, the metal gutters, and again, some single glazed timber dormer window, and granite masonry and mortar. And you just to add that there is also from previous work that was done on the building, we had some cement that was also in the mix as well.
This leads us to looking more deeply at the current condition of the former candle factory. And I'll start with the west elevation, which is just here off to my left, your right, which we don't have a sketch of. But you can see that, that this western elevation was once an exterior wall that has since been incorporated into the Whaling Museum, but we need to remember that this was once an external facade that experienced some of the weather that we've been feeling outside today, the chill, the rain, water, and some of the other impacts that we observed on the other elevations. So the south, what is now the front of the museum shop and the candle factory. We observed some mortar loss at the base of the building at the southeast corner, as well as delamination of the paint around the windows from UV exposure from sunlight, because this is the elevation that gets the most direct sun and UV exposure. Moving around to the back of the building, the north elevation, you may just be able to see through those top windows there, covered by scaffolding. This is the elevation that is undergoing the most intensive conservation efforts at the moment. At this elevation, we observed liberal application of intrusive Portland cement repointing done later in the attempted repairs of the building. We don't have an exact date. But this repointing occurred to both the masonry and the granite at this elevation and has caused damage that is since being remediated by ICR and ICC. The most significant aspect of the north elevation is that the masonry wall is actually bulging outwards because of the lack of internal supporting floors that since been removed in the renovation of the candle factory into the museum. At the east, we observed rare for Nantucket in our understanding, metal gutters and downpipes, though we suspect that they may be under capacity for the amount of stormwater that they are receiving, as well as cracking of several significant shapes and sizes throughout, particularly under windows and between the old and new sections of this masonry. We did a short study on the stormwater path and drainage as well of the roof into the garden at the back, what is now the garden at the back, onto South Beach Street. The indoor environment of the candle factory, now museum interior, has been kept constant at what we like to express as museum best practice of 50% relative humidity and 22 to 23% Celsius, degrees Celsius or 73 Fahrenheit museum conditions. However, this creates a disparity between the internal and external temperature and relative humidity of the site, which is actually degrading the masonry brickwork in the envelope of the building as it's keeping the condition of the collection rather, stable inside. And this continues onto the first floor. This creates conditions for efflorescing salts, masonry cracks, and as I mentioned before, a lack of support for the entire north wall structure. We also might see today, if this rain keeps up, some moisture ingress into the building. This collects particularly in the lower parts of the subfloor, and this has been observed previously at the bottom of the elevator pit off to the side here.
Right, so now we go into the climate stressors and exposure. And in looking at our climate risk statement, due to the higher sea levels as projected and the fact that we'll be having more flooding, this should continue to threaten the candle factory simply because the sea levels are expected to rise by 0.5 meters by 2050 and 2 meters by 2100. So what this leads us to is that the candle factory faces increasing risks also from biological growth, salt deposition, and moisture issues over time. We estimate that or project that 70 annual flood days are projected by 2050 and persistent flooding by 2100. By 2050, the museum access we believe will become restricted for up to 70 days annually, significantly impacting community use, the important social and cultural values of the site, and that this will limit access in terms of the building and its amenities. So this will require more resources to maintain the candle factory's cultural and social significance, and because this will be eroded as climate stressors accelerate and result in further deterioration.
Okay, moving to the prominent climate risks. So we identified that these are most of the, what we could observe in the different locations of the building: the rising sea level, flooding, increased precipitation, and erosion. In terms of data, the sea level rise is a critical concern, as I said before, especially taking into consideration the location of the candle factory. As historical data and future prediction shows that by 2050, the predicted sea level rise at the site will reach 1.6 feet or plus 0.5 meters of the building. And by 2100, this could reach 2 meters or 6.5 feet. And here we add some visualization of the level of the water on the north elevation. The threat of flooding is both frequent and severe. By 2050, 70 flooding days per year is expected, as shows here in the data. And by 2100, the candle factory could experience permanent flooding. This will exacerbate structural deterioration and limit community use and accessibility to the building. The combination of the high tide and increased precipitation highlights the urgent need for drainage improvements and flood barriers. And as my colleague here, Jose, will build on. These are some 3D visualization. We found them nice in one of the NHA publications. As you can see, how the building will be flooded. Oh,
Yes, yeah.
Well, to summarize all the information provided in this presentation, we have created this table where we identify the hazards, the risks, and the recommendations that we're open for discussion later. We have breakdown the building or the case study into facades, roofing, collections, and community. Okay. So this rise of the sea level will affect the facades in an increase in the humidity in masonry that will bring more salts and efflorescences in the walls. In the brick masonry will affect appearance. So we possibly can recommend temporary water barriers. Those are available in the market for immediate stop of the water. We will show you later some pictures about that. And of course, the need of increasing the regular maintenance of the facades. That will be for the short term. For the long term, something in the infrastructure of the houses. I mean, of the urban planning should be done in terms of improving the drainage and also design water permeable streets that we will talk later. Also, freeze and thaw cycles during the winter season will affect mortar loss and instability and brick masonry deterioration. So possibly in the lower courses of the facades. So that will bring to structural affect to the structural stability of the building and the appearance and the deterioration of the integrity of the building. So possibly our recommendation could be needed to install damp-proof course in the first on the first courses of the building. We will show some images about that. Of course, again, increase the regular maintenance of these most affected courses of the brick and keep monitoring the building. Also, there will be an increase in biological growth, so it will lead to aesthetic alteration, and the appearance of the building will not be the same. So that will need to apply actually more biocides to increase the cleaning works, and well, possibly there will be needed some consolidation to keep the integrity of the building. The consolidation possibly with ethyl silicates or something that could be recommended to start testing the compatibility of this to keep the integrity of the masonry. Regarding the roofing, the excess of stormwater overloads the gutters, so that can impact on the ineffective side drainage and possibly moisture ingress inside the building. So regular gutter cleaning would be needed. So the increase of the maintenance in the gutters will be needed in the future. And possibly in the medium term, we recommend to increase the diameter of the downpipe capacity. Regarding the collections, the building inundation predicted by 2050 will compromise the integrity of the collection. Possibly there will be loss or damage in the objects. So we strongly recommend disaster risk management of the building in order to know what to do, how to proceed in these 70 days per year that will happen, these events. Disaster risk management is needed. Possibly removing the concrete slab will also help in terms of control of the dampness, raising the ground floor also. We are proposing raising this ground floor, so it will help in flooding events. Also, the change of internal temperature and humidity controls can affect the condition of the collection. So we strongly recommend a conservation plan in this regard. The increase in the event of flooding will also impact on the financial and revenue losses of the museum, because it will be closed possibly more days than it will also be needed to review the management plan of the building. So what else? The amount of flooding days will impact in the post-flooding recovery after the flooding, in terms of the dirt and debris cleaning. So we are recommending to install these barriers these temporary barriers in terms to mitigate somehow the amount of water that comes inside. Okay. Talking about the community, the museum will be closed more days. So there will be a loss in the museum as an event space. There will be more the decrease in revenues as well, and that will lead to some problems in this regards. We're recommending host events only in the upper floors, and possibly in the long term find alternative venues for events. Okay, so these are kind of our main recommendations. Other recommendations that we have evaluated are monitoring the vibrations and air quality pollution. The building, the site, is surrounded by a street with high traffic. The east elevation is surrounded by a very busy street with big trucks. So it will be useful for the museum to monitor the affection of these vibrations and the air quality because of the pollution. Also, we are proposing to lobby with whoever to limit the vehicle circulation in front of the building, because of, again, vibration and pollution causes damage in the environment and also in the building. We are proposing or recommending also reducing the carbon footprint and energy cost of the building, installing renewable energies in terms of climate mitigation. There's an opportunity of installing geothermal in the backyard, so with no affection to the values of the building. That could be interesting, maybe to become the first museum in the island carbon neutral, for instance. I don't know, this is an idea. And also promote awareness to become a carbon neutral island by 2030. I'm bringing this idea from Europe. There's an initiative in Europe with small islands like this that are becoming carbon neutral, using renewable energies and so on. So it's an idea. And also we are promoting or recommending the promotion of a pilot project for a pedestrian area in the historical district. This is also brought from Europe. Pedestrian areas become more friendly for the community, and well, prevent from pollution, and they have many good things for it. So, well, these are some sketches or for these strategies for reducing the hazards. These on the left are these commercial water barriers in the market that are available in the market. They are prefab and can be installed in hours. We're also thinking about creating some kind of climate volunteers in the community that could help the museum in these regards, because we foresee that more help will be needed for cleaning, for helping, for this. So, well, and on the right, the dam-proof course is a well-known solution in conservation and helps from the water table to raise up on the wall. This is, well, a sketch of the raise of the floor level. And, well, that's all. We are open for discussion. Thank you very much on behalf of the whole team.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Group 2, otherwise known as the Green Apple Group. And we are very excited to be here. As an introduction, our team is composed of 3 of us: Ridhima Bajaj from India, Talal Arzarlani from Saudi Arabia, and myself, Judy Ogana from Kenya. We're very proud and pleased to have been assigned the Thomas Macy warehouse. It has been an inspiring journey, and you will see that from the number of slides we have. We will try very much to keep it short. But before, without much further ado, I'd like first, of course, to thank our supporters, especially Glenn and Rohit, and as well as Niles and the whole team for taking us through a fantastic 4 weeks. We'll go right ahead and start the presentation. And I'll ask my colleague, Talal, to come and start us off with a discussion on the zones of historical area of Nantucket.
The historic district area has been divided to 3 zones as beginning to work in this project. And we have been working on the green zone. And we're going to look at Thomas Macy warehouse, where it's located on the 12th Street. Based on the issues and property uses, we divide the zone to 4 subzones. The red one, which is along the sea, and the yellow and purple one, which is most affected by flood and its commercial uses mostly. And we have the green area, which is mostly not affected by flood, but it's affected by rain, and it's this slide shows the variety of structures and streets and walkways in this area. Significance of the area. The district highlights the island role as a 19th century woolen hub. The area has well-preserved buildings and cobblestone streets that reflect its past. The district offers educational opportunities to explore history, architecture, and traditional life, while also building a strong community spirit among locals and visitors. Area level condition assessments and issues, we found structural and non-structural issues, superficial and surface issues, water management issues, and policies and planning issues. This will illustrate structural and non-structural issues, which shows such unprotected foundations, weak chimneys, and damaged roofs. We can see here as well some other issues like structural cracks and weak conditions. Water management issues, including unprotected as well foundations and accumulation in basements, water accumulation. Here are the issues of the water management, drainage system, and foundation issues as well. The surface issues, we have moisture and vegetation growth. And here,
all right, so we'll now get into the building level investigations of the Thomas Macy warehouse. The way that we will do it, we will start with the historical background, spatial planning, building description, and then get into the elements and materials and conditional statement assessment, as well as the costs of the conditions. For the historical background, like the other team, we got quite a number of photographs from the archives, but we also recognize the importance of the history of the building, which was built in 1846 after the Great Fire. It is strategically located in the active waterfront on infill land. It used to be used as a supply store, dealing primarily with the marine outfitting. And as you can see, it is impressively built in Greek Revival industrial architectural style. And it has changed hands to several owners, including Macy's sons, who use it as a chandlery and warehouse. In 1905, there was a carpentry shop. And in 1944, the Nantucket Foundation Incorporated took ownership. It has also been affected by events, including the Atlantic hurricane of 1944 and the floods in 1991. All that to say that it's an important and very important building in Nantucket. What is the significance of this site? Historically, as I've just gone through, it is a very important site in terms of its architectural style, associational as well, including the number of owners and the different ways that it has been used over the years. Socioculturally, it's also critical, currently standing as an art gallery and a social space in history and culture. Economically, as an art gallery, it has played an important role. But even before, when it was a carpentry shop or it was dealing with whaling on the island, it was critical in terms of economics. And currently, as an educational value space, it stands very tall. In terms of spatial planning, you'll see how it is situated within the island. And it's very important location-wise, currently very strategic, but also previously and historically for the whaling business, it was critical as well. The current scenario is shown in these photographs that have been put up. The extent of the structure were larger than they currently are. The main street connects to the ferry port. As you see the pictures on my right, that was the original entrance of the building, and the stairs were external. They are now currently have been installed in the internal face of the building. Archival information is really important because it gives us a good sense of how it has evolved as a building. And the first photo that we have is the 1891, but there's also documentation on when it caught fire in 1944 and how then it looked, as well as the interiors that have very strong aesthetic look that has actually been preserved over the years. You can see from the first photograph that the building did not have the ramp and the entrance. There is also documentation on the scaffolding and the work that was done when the building caught fire again in 1975 and the building works that happened thereafter. Going on with the archival information, we see that the warehouse, its west elevation had a different sort of architectural language, as well as the back door of the Macy warehouse in the middle photograph. In terms of architectural description and the floor plans, you'll see, and we will get deeper into the language of the architect, it houses an art exhibition space that is approximately 45 by 42 and really holds a grand hall and a vestibule. The walls are mainly brick and lime and mortar, and the roofing consists of timber planks and timber joists as well as rafters. Flooring is timber planks and some concrete flooring, and the doors and wood windows are timber frames, sandstone lintels, and sills and sandstone frames. So from here, I'll ask Ridima to proceed with the presentation on the architectural description. Ridima.
Hi, everyone. So from here, we'll largely be covering what was our methodology to assess the building on the site, and how did we reach on the kind of issues that the building is having, what are the causes of the issue, and then the proposals. So I'll take you through this slide, which is telling about the materials on the south facade and the condition of the building on the south facade. We have done this for all the facades, all the floors and the roofing and RCPs, whereas we have just put one sample and few other examples on these slides. So as we see, the roof is of slates and the building is of brick and lime mortar and masonry. They are sandstone lintels. Historic brick masonry in lime mortar is what we see on the facades, and then there are timber panels on the door. Parapet is added later, and the gutters and the rainwater pipes are there. Sandstone lintels as well as sills on the upper level as well, and the lower level. So this is the kind of material palette that we see in the building on the southern facade. There are some interventions done in historic bricks, which are just in cement pointing. What are the major issues that the building is on this facade dealing with is loose masonry with loss of mortar because of the water ingress. We see both the kinds of defects. There is a water seepage from the upper rooftop, and there is water rise as well. So what are the causes of this? I'll further cover. Whereas we also did install some moisture meters to identify what are the areas where water moisture is rising when we go up, or where are they decreasing, so that we get to know that water seepage is from the upwards or the downwards. So that gives us an indicator of what is happening in each part of the masonry in terms of water seepage and water rise. Further, we also see that the bricks were weathered, they were pitted. This was all the water action as well as the salt action. So mostly this building is largely built on an infill land over the sea. And there is probably the water table beneath it has a lot of amount of salt. And when the water rise happens, it leaves a lot of efflorescence on the brick and decays the mortar as well. So mortar, we are losing the mortar, we are losing the bricks are getting pulverized. And on the lower courses, it's seen much higher. Considering each facade separately, so that's the condition of the south facade, which is a little more elaborately put. Whereas if we consider the west facade, we have a plastered wall. And very interesting thing, because this plastered wall is not allowing the water to, percolate, or it's not allowing water to breathe. So the internal wall of this facade is actually seeing much more decay. The lower courses are much more pulverized. The water moisture content goes up to 20. Whereas on the other facades, it is mostly 17 or 16. So the range of moisture is very high on this facade. Then if we also see the timber is on this facade shows a lot of damp. The moisture content in the timber is very high, which is very rare to see if the timber is considered. Water content, timber doesn't hold the water as much. But when we consider this facade and the structural system and we check the timber moisture, the content is very high. So therefore, a lot of water is trapped on this facade of it. if we go to the other facade, which is, okay, so yeah, this is interesting. So after doing all this studies, we also came up to few questions that we need to answer through further investigation and studies. These are some of them that I'll go through is, the moisture content decreases as we go upwards, whereas the action is opposite in southwestern edge of the elevation. Why is that happening? So then the other question rises is, when was the parapet added? So through archival pictures, we do not get that information, whereas we have certain kind of information such as if the ramp is added in a particular period, the brick course masonry and plinth goes below the ramp. This is an accelerator to water rise action and is not allowing the water to go to breathe through the plinth of the building. So I'll just go through one more or two more and then move ahead. So one of the causes of the impact of the western internal wall is the plaster on the external surface. What are the other factors which are, accelerating the impact? Because the impact is really high on timber as well as masonry. If we consider the west elevation, what is the purpose of downwater pipes? Because this are originating but not going anywhere. And this is, when Talal was discussing about the water impact in the area or the inadequate water management, this is one of the common things that we found, that the gutters and the pipes, downwater pipes, are generally ending up in the streets. And there is no drainage system which is taking the entire water system to somewhere. So water flooding, water logging, inadequate slopes on the road is also adding on to the issue of water stagnation around the building. So there are certain things on the periphery, and then there are certain things within the building, especially the interventions which have happened through the years, which are adding to the issues of water being in the building, the deterioration of masonry and the timber. So we have done the similar exercise. I'll just pass through this. You can ask any question for a particular facade if required. So this is for east elevation, west elevation. Then we have done a material-wise assessment. What are the kind of issues in each of the materials that we see? So like brick, so we see weathering, we see pitting. So these are the kind of different problems. Even what are the materials, which element is holding which material, that kind of assessment we have done through this study. And so these are elements and material assessments. Then we have assessed the building in terms of issues. We have divided into structural issues, non-structural issues, and surface issues. And we have found the cause of the, and the accelerating factors which are increasing this issue. So structural issues, we have looked into the cracks which are in timbers. These timbers are all supporting members, the roof structural timber members, and which have heavy cracks. There's separation on one of the facades from the building which is adjacent. There are opening joints. There are cracks in the masonry, cracks in stone lintels as well. The non-structural issues are weathering of bricks, pitting in bricks, deterioration of mortar, deteriorating timber, dampness, timber flaking. Surface issue is largely big of efflorescence, flaking of bricks, but mostly this issue arises when there is water and soil in the building. So that indicates the presence of a lot amount of water and soil. So that's a little more in detail, each structural issue shown through pictures. These are the non-structural issues. So these are material-wise decays that we have documented. So yeah, that's a little graphic where we show what are the kind of issues a brick can have in terms of soil deposition, pitting, stains. And then we have done this understanding of each element, what materials it holds, what are the condition, and what is the cause of decay. We have just put one. We have entire study on each element, floor-wise and roof-wise and wall-wise. So yeah, this we have kind of assessed what is the significance. When we consider material fabric of the building, we have considered it to be the value to the building, and the condition of the building is the risk of the building. And we have given an assessment and kind of seen which comes on the higher priority. So if the value is high and the risk is high, we need to address it immediately, or it becomes a priority. When the value is low and the risk is low, then that becomes a little, low on priority to address it immediately. So this is the assessment which we carried out. Then we also have done a condition, material, location, where is it located? Because location, it depends which material in the building is at what location, and therefore what kind of issues it's having. So water ingress can be one of the issues and pitting can be one of the issues, but where is it having? It is happening on the lower courses of the masonry, or is it happening on the upper courses of the masonry? That can have a different cause of the issue. So it's important to know the location, the material, the condition to reach to the cause of the problem. So that is the kind of study we did. And what are the underlying issues which indicate the role of a climate stressor? What is accelerating? Suppose we are talking about the flooding. So the flooding is increasing the water ingress. So that's becomes a kind of climate stressor for masonry being deteriorated or timber getting impacted. So that's the kind of study we did in this exercise. Yeah. So we have chosen the climate stressor flooding for our detailed study. And the secondary stressors which arise are which are heavy rainfall and seawater rise. And flooding causes the waterlogging, that is causing the water rise in the building, that's deteriorating the mortar and weathering of bricks, then it's weakening the walls and the timber is getting impacted, therefore the cracks and open joints. So this is one of the graphics, whereas we have done it for each material and in detail. So I'll go further. So yeah. So if we consider the climate stressor as flooding, so what are the values of the building which are actually exposed are kind of settings in the surroundings of the building, the artifacts and the paintings in the building, the external walls are exposed, the roofings is exposed, and what are the vulnerabilities are due to flooding, the access to the building gets blocked. Ground floor of the structure gets flooded during the rainy season, which impacts materials as well as the artifacts. The inadequate drainage and the water management and the gap at the policy and strategy level for management of stormwater drainage, including the interconnection between a private building and a public planning systems, is something that we found missing. Due to water rise and water seepage, timber shows sign of cracks and structural members and rafters, which can further be a very detrimental thing for the building. Then there are impacts. It also has an economic impact. It has a social impact. Paintings are at risk. Walls and roof, both bricks, timber, are vulnerable and have deteriorating action further. And so we have mitigation and adaptation, which we have given as provision of adequate slopes and drainage in the surroundings, whereas we will go further to reach to this one. So if we consider projection data, so the flooding on the island, the coastal flooding, this indicates the flood risk map, whereas if we see 2050 data, the island is flooded and the part of the warehouse is like completely flooded up to 20%, and this is above 10 feet into by 2070. We have done a little graphical representation of the water per year, and this is based on NOAA's sea level rise projections. So by 2020, the water is at zero level where we are, and then 2040, we are considering it to be 1.15 based on the NOAA's readings. To 2060, it goes up to 2.36, and by 2100, it is 6.6 feet, which is like entire ground floor submerged into the building. So, Judy, could you please read this climate risk statement for Macy's building? Then
in terms of the statement, we say that Thomas Macy's warehouse is in an area prone to flooding, as you've seen. The number of floods were 6 in the 60s. There are 37 by 2017 and 75 in 2023, which shows a significant rise in the trend of flooding, translating about a rise of 69 floods events in 65 years. Approximate sea level rise has demonstrated a steady increase with between 1950 and 2023 at 220 millimeters and projected to for 2050 at 450 millimeters and by 2100 at 1000 millimeters. Macy Warehouse sits in an infill land with underground seawater. There is inadequate drainage and inappropriate slopes around the structure. The gutters and drain downpipes are not functional. There is a gap in interlinkage of private and public management systems of rainwater. This dysfunctional stormwater management adds to the impact on the building. The building is of high in architectural and association value with functioning art gallery, an art gallery which is at a physical risk due to flooding. Timber in the structure is used for roofing system and flooring. The columns are also of timber, which is highly prone to get impacted by the water action. Already, there's members show signs of distress and have structural cracks. With the increased number of flooding events, the frequency of timber exposure to water and repeatedly going through drying process can amplify the decay of timber immensely, causing structural collapse. Other major materials in the structure are brick and mortar, which are already very fast, in a fast rate of decay, showing signs of weathering and pulverization. There have been significant steps taken by the local authorities in which the structure was retained and maintained by NHA 3 years ago and has been supported through regular repair works. With more rainfall and rising groundwater and ocean levels predicted, the Thomas Macy warehouse will face growing damage over time. Without any protective measures in place, degradation of structural elements, timber, and masonry will worsen. In the long term, this will increase the building risk of structural damage, including possible collapse, and the ground floor completely submerged in water. The need to replace original materials will affect the historical value and authenticity of the building. As humidity and water levels keep rising, it may become very challenging to keep the building intact with all values conserved and retained. This calls for an urgent long-term adaptation and resilient measure. So I think we'll ask Ridima to continue with the next slide.
Okay, so now that we know the building is at high risk and we need a urgent adaptation and resilience measure, so we have proposed few mitigation and adaptation methods which we can adapt at area level as well as building level. One of this we have proposed is a staggered seawall proposed with combination of boulders, pitching, and trap bags to block the water, including the high tide during the high tide and water rise. Definitely more research is required on this particular bit. What kind of trap bags are we using? What kind of pitching boulders are we using? And what is the kind of staggered elevation that we need to give? So that is one thing. This would help the reduction of the chances of collapse of structures and the water getting into the area. And then engagement of multidimensional technical team is what we have proposed as an adaptive capacity. And this is a medium-term proposal. And the second proposal that we have given is area level monitors for rainfall predictions and some sort of alarms where the community is trained on how to do shifting of artifacts and how to move the valuables in and around the building. This is for the building as well as area level. Another proposal that we have given for the building level is the wood, some sort of water-based wood coatings to prevent water action on the exposed member of timbers so that it prevents the further decay of it. And even the foundation investigations on how the condition of the current foundation is, what is happening with the materials which are in the foundation, what is the kind of strength that the foundation has. We have also proposed an economic sustainability plan for the communities depending on the tourism, the non-seasonal, as well as during the time of flooding. There is another proposal on raising the structures on a higher plinth wherever possible. And this is to reduce the water getting flooded on the ground floors. The technical experts definitely are required for these construction of the structures, and the toolkit, which we already have, we have proposed to relook at the toolkit and to revisit the toolkit and see what can be worked as per these projections. So reducing vulnerabilities, if we see at reducing vulnerabilities, we have proposed the provision of adequate drainage system with adequate cleaning chambers and water harvesting rain pits. We've also proposed the temporary relocation of the art gallery during the season of flooding. And the adaptive measure is that land bank could see one of the lands where the temporary exhibition can be put during the time of flooding so that the artifacts are in safer space. The community programs and educational programs with schools and awareness about we need to create future generation who knows about the entire process of the adaptation, mitigation, and at local level traditional knowledge that can be collected. Then we have also proposed the listing of the inventories and valuables, moving these valuables to the first floor, which are more, historic and which have higher significance. And during flooding, these artifacts to be moved to the temporary exhibition. Yeah, so these are few of the proposals. We have done an exercise on different mitigation and adaptations. We just have placed few here. Yeah, thanks. Any questions? Thank you. Any questions? So, here. Or online.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I speak on behalf of the Group C, also known as Lemon Group, and it is composed by myself, José Monteiro from Portugal, Artnet from Kosovo, Tomoya from Japan, and Abdullah from Iraq. And I'd like to say, I think I can speak in behalf of all the group, that it is a pleasure to be here to share knowledge and learn from this group from various parts of the world, and also from our teachers, Glenn, Rohit, all the lecturers. And we also would like to thank the way we were received here in the beautiful Nantucket. And the theme of our presentation is the William Roth building. As I was saying, the William Roth building, which was built in 1775, not as in 1772 as it's in the building facade. And it was built as a counting house and warehouse for the Roth Enterprises, an Nantucket-owned whaling ship. The architect, as far as we could learn, is unknown. And as historical facts, the owner, William Roch, obtained the land for the building in 1774. In 1775, the building was constructed, as said before. In 1804, it was sold to Gideon Garner. And 1831, it was purchased by a commercial insurance company. And in 1861, it was purchased by the Pacific Club, which is the current name of the building. During these years, the building has suffered several changes and alterations and additions. Mainly, the most important one after the Great Fire of 1846, when the interior of the building and its contents were destroyed, but the walls were preserved. There's an important fact is that we didn't find any reference about the date when the basement was built. And just to share with you all the images from the building. The one on the left is Main Street in 1861. And some more recent pictures, and one of which demonstrates one of the uses of the building as a court. So I pass the page to Partner.
Yes. To understand better the values and the significance of the building, we actually listed all the values as you see and divided the attributes of the buildings. And we thought that maybe giving the points for each attribute will give a better picture to us and understand their values. As you see, we have attributes like masonry bricks, wood windows, entrances, decorative elements, and the sandstone frame, which are the main ones for this building. And another side, we have listed the attributes and their points in order to give us the better picture for our building. Then we identified the main stressor of the buildings, which is sea level rise, with the secondary stressors like flooding and humidity, then wind, where the building will have a deformation on the structure, and salinity. Then the third one is a rainfall, which will create the high humidity in the building. There are some photos from the history of flooding in this area. And also we analyzed the few scenarios, and in this slide you can see how the sea level will rise and the position of our building, where in 2070 the worst scenario is that we will lose this building. Existing situation, as you see, it is not the best one. We have some biofilm and then cracks, some deterioration in the facade. And then there are some general observations that we saw that there is a salt on many parts of the building, biofilm, moss, lack of mortar between the bricks, moisture from the ground surface. Then sandstone is damaged with multi-cracks, and also there is a new additional part in the building structure.
Let's see from the west elevation. The northwest corner is the most damaged because of the gutter is filled with a lot of fallen leaves. So the rainfall is overflowed, and rainwater is damaged for this corner. And the biofilm has occurred. And also the rainfalls is making deterioration of roof surface. And most is from the moisture from the ground surface has occurred. And the south elevation, we found that sandstone damage like this. And also in the north elevation, we see that most of the from the ground, new element like or a structure like this additional stairs. The surface damage was caused by iron rust on stairs. And also the east elevation is enough. On the next slide, we have shocking photos. We saw the basement is submerged now. So this is not a future story. This is now happened. So this is ongoing issue. And you see inside the building, the first floor and the second floor is renovated. And the third floor, you can see the fresco. And also this building has a very beautiful timber truss of wooden truss. This truss is very old, and it may be original one. Okay.
During this process, for us, it was important to analyze each element and their material with the condition that they have. Therefore, like example, walls that are from bricks in good condition, and then gable as well is in good condition from the bricks. What was in poor condition, it is entrance from the sandstone. And then we analyzed also openings like windows, that was their material that was from wood. It was in very good condition. Then external staircases from the metal that was as well in very good condition.
So considering all the previous analysis and the condition analysis for the building, we're starting our adaptation measures for the building to protect it from the climate change circumstances. So we start with the climate risk assessment. We consider the historical value of the building first of all. Then also we take into consideration we also taken into consideration the climate stratas we already mentioned. For instance, for the flood, we expected that the building will be the flood risk will be increased by 0.1% by 2050. This is in best case scenario, and also it will be increased by 0.5% by 2070. And this is actually lead us to take like a real measurement to protect the building in terms of the structural physical elements like the structural and materials, as well as in the long term for the policies and legislation. So based on that, we developed. So based on that, we start developing our climate adaptation action plan, which divided into the following elements. The first one, we identify the risk mitigation measure. Then we determine the implementation. Is it like long term or short term? Also the cost. And on the other hand, we're also measuring if it's like on the site level, city or national or the local level. So we started with the short-term measurements for the building. As my colleagues mentioned, there is a lots of underground water in the basement. So as immediate like measurement, we thought like we have to continue. We are installing like small pumping station to pumping the water from outside the building, and also to provide mechanical ventilation just to reducing the moistures risks and so on. And also to add some reinforcement for the building, like for the structure and materials. From the other hand, we have long-term measurements. The first part of it is about the structure, and the second one about the policies. Regarding the structure, we thought we have like we need to drainage system for the neighborhood, just to managing the water, the underground water and the sea level water. And also we might be considering to filling the basement with some materials like concrete or similar, just to protect the structures, the columns and the foundation from any effects by the water. For the long term, or we call it non-construction measurements, we thought we should have like establishing policies to use the renewable energy instead of the fossil energy, and also to build resilience policy to face the effects of the weather and climate change. And also why we saying like this regarding the fossil energy actually and the extreme weather, because also we have another factor actually impacted the building, which is the traffic, the traffic pollution. There is a lots of trucks go and park on the street, and this has highly affected the structure and the materials of the building. Yeah.
And finally, we present a monitoring and management plan, which has the goal to address water impacts one of which is assess the origin of water flooding the basement. Check the soundness of the wooden structure. It's necessary to monitor whether the structural members and beams are sinking. Investigate moisture sources, such as the roof or gutters, to direct rainwater away from the walls. Assessment of vibrations. Monitor traffic in surrounding streets in order to verify if there is an effect of traffic in the building stability, especially knowing the area that there is lots of traffic in circulation, especially heavy trucks. And also assessment of wind conditions and storms. Monitor wind and storms conditions in order to verify if there is an effect of wind patterns in the building stability. And that's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for amazing presentation. So any question for this group specific to this group? If not, yes. I pass back to you. And then
this may not be directly to your specific stuff you were doing, but you talk about moving water away and away from the, where is the current groundwater? I mean, like, you have the road, you have all the roads, and all these buildings seem to be basically.
Okay. No, okay. Can you go from the beginning, please?
Okay. All these buildings basically are about the same height above sea level.
Mhm.
Basically, the roads are about, the road itself through this area is the same height. And how high is that above, if at all, the current sea level? So moving water away is just, puts it on the people next to you, and then goes back and, I mean.
Moving away was just
So
a very short term.
you've talked a little bit about raising some of these buildings briefly, which I don't, there are a lot of other ones that can be raised, but I don't think these can. I'm just wondering how that factors in, or maybe that's not your purview.
No, that's not what we suggested. First, it's pumping the water as a very short measure in order to avoid the deterioration of the structure of the building. And the other measure would be to fill the basement, which is not used anyway, fill with material so that prevent from the water to inundate. Not raise the building, but fill the basement with concrete or other material that would not cause another negative effect on the building. Since the basement isn't anymore useful, could be a way of securing the building.
Okay, I think.
Yeah, so all the buildings which we have discussed are not on the same level. There is a definite slope towards the sea is what is one factor. Secondly, I think combination of multiple mitigation and adaptation plans would work rather. Like the first thing which we observed was inadequate drainage system. So if we provide proper gutter, the rainwater pipes going into the drain, the watershed areas, so a lot of rainwater is addressed there. The second issue is of flooding is through the seawater. So that is something which is inevitable. It would have, but the carbon footprint which everyone has been talking about, the global warming, everyone has, that can really help it reduce further. So, those steps can help it reduce. Whereas when the seawater is rising, we can have adaptation methods when we talk about the seawall. So it's a combination of a lot of things. In fact, when we are talking about the road levels which are risen and the plinth which is hiding plinth levels also, which are now not permeable, not allowing water to go underground. So if we remove those, we actually go a level down on from the current level of the roads, which might work. But these needs a little sort of research, architectural drawings, those sections to be worked out. And therefore, these combinations of things probably is what we are kind of proposing.
Can I just add that we are studying 3 separate buildings, proposing separate measures, but all the measures must be on an integrated level. So there are no separate measures that will work. It must be a major plan for all the historic area of the city.
Maybe a holistic plan which integrates the infrastructure into heritage, into the climate action plan, all the layers considered into one major action plan.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you. So this is a question along the same lines. And in one of the charts, it looked like one of the options was raising. I've forgotten whether it was this one or Thomas Macy Warehouse. But that was the high cost as opposed to the medium or low cost. And I'm just curious, maybe I misread that, but if that was one of the options, is what makes that any better or more appropriate for one building than another? I'm just curious because it seems like keeping the building whole and going up would keep more integrity than filling in or waterproofing the base and having that compromise. And also, I'm kind of curious, if you sort of treated the basement of the Pacific Club like a pool with doing concrete around the base to prevent the water from coming in, but not necessarily to fill it with material, filling the void. So just curious about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone would like to respond to this?
Yeah, actually, where I came from Iraq, we usually when we found like, for instance, the underground water, we're searching for the source of this water, and we're trying either to change the path of the water to like another maybe to the water tank. We can put it in the other side on another place, or to have like to filling the source with the materials that could maybe change the path automatically to another place. But here I think is different, like in Nantucket, because the whole city is historic district, and so what we have now is just to like do immediate treatment for what we have. For instance, we suggested to put like a treatment plant, a pumping station to pumping the water regularly from the basement to outside, maybe to outside tank. Maybe we can use the water, like recycle it and use it for any other uses. And also to maybe the second thing, we were like looking like by our eyes to the foundations of the building and the columns, and it was really under risk, because the water is like 1 meter or some like 1 meter like in the foundation and basement, and this is really put a lots of risk on the foundation. That's why we are trying to having these like initial ideas about the solution for this issue. Thank you.
Can I just add to what Abdullah was saying, is that there are at least 2 sources of origins for the water that floods the basement. One would be from the table water that coming up due to the sea level rise, and the other one would be from flooding from the currents and the high tides and so on. So it's not an easy solution. This is a proposal, just preliminary idea.
And I think it's also larger, as you were saying earlier, a much larger problem. You can't just separate the Thomas Macy Warehouse or the Pacific Club out, they, and try to develop a mitigation plan or an adaptation plan for it specifically. I mean, it's the whole downtown, but one of the things that we did as part of the last program and afterwards is installed monitors and sensors in 6 representative structures. And in the basement of the Thomas Macy, in the Pacific Club, we have a piezometer that measures the height of the water, and we have weather stations and other sensors in other locations, so we can overlay data and we can see trends. So we are seeing that whenever there's a rain event, the water goes up, and when we overlay tidal information, there's no effect on the water in the basement. And then, as we, over the course of this course, speaking with town representatives from the sewer department who are now in charge of stormwater management, Vince and Leah in this sustainability for the town, and other people, even like Penn Austin, who has been observing changes over time. Leah was saying to us that there's like a river coming down up from Upper Main Street from Fair Street coming, and then just you can watch it even in a small rain like today at the base of Main Street. It's just flooded, and the kinds of changes that have been made to the cobblestones have made it impermeable. There's we've spoke a lot over the course of this month about traditional knowledge and how a lot of how people understood cause and effect relationships, and how lately we don't understand them, and we're actually accelerating the decay of what we have by using inappropriate materials. So, if we could get back to a permeable Main Street and people could collect, everyone on Main Street is dumping their water, there's no stormwater collection. So, I think we could solve the problem at the Pacific Club, but this is a much, much larger issue. And I think this was an exercise of what could we do in certain places, but it's really a systemic issue that is interdisciplinary, and these people have to speak to each other, and a real coordinated plan, I think, needs to be developed.
Anyone else? Okay, so if I may ask, not just your group, but the others group, each one of you can, if you can briefly, each group can talk about what you think is, from all the work you have done here on Nantucket, what do you think should be the priority in terms of addressing climate change? What you see as the main priority for climate action on the island? If each group can say something, that'd be great.
Yeah, from myself, from our side, and from the 4 weeks we spend it here, we think first of all the Nantucket should look to the flooding as a critical risk to the island, and I think they should start like looking at the risk in the national and local level, and they should start like doing the measurements for the coastals, for the important buildings on the coasts. This is from the one hand. From the other hand, I think on the size and on technical level here in the city, they should start like looking to the technical solutions, practical solutions for the current historical buildings to protect them, like the Pacific Club and the other buildings, and also to looking to the landscape. Because also we can see like the landscape of the city, it's became like more a lots of what we call it. Sometimes you can see like it's growing in a random way more than a regular way, because the water and the roots are growing and everywhere. Yeah, and that's all.
Can I just add? I think that the main strategy for safeguarding the downtown city of Nantucket would be implementing a drainage system. It would have to be comprehensive for not only the downtown, but starting Main Street and upwards, and creating an underground drainage that could collect all the water, removing the impermeable layer that is in the streets, turning them permeable so that the water can sink and instead of running along Main Street mainly. Yeah, I think that the drainage system would be priority number one.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, so the response is pretty similar, whereas I would say that what I see is required is an intervention at a macro level and micro level both. So at macro level, it's an integrated holistic conservation urban planning action plan, where we talk about the transport, rerouting of the vehicles. We also talk about the drainage system, drainage plan for the city. We talk about the heritage structures, how are they being addressed in terms of conservation plan, risk management plan. So that comprehensive plan is required with a further action of what is to be done immediately, medium term and long term. Whereas at micro level, I think what Glenn was speaking about, monitoring the structures is going on, conservation, so that the pilot projects are done and they are demonstrated on how the conservation processes can be done. So that at micro level. So we start at macro and we do something at micro to merge and to come to one platform where we have good examples to take it further.
Yeah, I can just add something here. We just talking about the water management system. We think it's really important for the city. Like we need like a water harvesting system, and to use like there is a lots of water, like we can reuse it again, and maybe to do like small treatments and reuse it for the agricultural and domestic use.
All right, so my comment is, well, really must said it when I put up my hand, but just to add also, because I'm from an island also, and much of the space that we live in and everything is in that coastal zone. So we really have to look at how, and all my colleagues have been saying it, we have to look at our relationship with the water and how we want to see things moving forward within the context of what we're going to lose and what we can do. Glenn spoke about the fact that, bringing together the traditional knowledge issues together and thinking about things at the macro and micro level, and really water is going to be, how we manage this water is going to be the critical thing for Nantucket moving forward. It's also for us moving forward, because we're having more flooding events and we're not even beginning to address them in ways that I see some things being dealt with in Nantucket. So like in that sense, this was a learning experience for me that I can take back home. But I don't know if any of my other group members want to add something to SOCAT.
Hi, this is Kat from Australia, also an island nation, continent, country. A big island talking to a small island. So, yeah, just reiterating, we need to start collecting our urban stormwater better, even storing it in rainwater tanks on each property for recycling and reuse as grey water. As the candle factory mentioned earlier in the afternoon, we recommend changing the truck route from the Steamship Authority away from the candle factory and the Whaling Museum entirely, and pedestrianising downtown and closing downtown to cars during peak periods such as the summer season. We have also discussed over the last 4 weeks the confronting topic of a planned retreat, and we do think that ideas such as a demolishing select areas that we know will be inundated, such as the Brand Point neighborhood, the Stop and Shop car park, the former industrial zone behind where the brick substation is, and re-landscaping those areas into flood retention basins and introducing other water-sensitive urban design principles like permeable pavements throughout downtown may help mitigating some of the flooding that we see.
Just
Can I?
just to add that collection of water reminds me that Nantucket has a system of cisterns that not in use that would be perhaps useful to clean them and collect the water part of it.
One very small comment, always we are looking in very micro things that can affect, make an impact. I think in Nantucket, my opinion is that you can look in very small details like gutters that are not clean and which really affects and during the rainfall, the quality condition of the buildings and sidewalks as well that are giving the wrong direction to the water, and that's all. I mean, this doesn't take too long period to implement compared to other strategies, and maybe the budget is low, and you can do.
Well, no, just to add that the issue of the rainwater management is important, but the sea level is even more. The sea level rises quickly, and that can be solved with water management in the city. So either major infrastructure initiative is done, like in Venice or in the Netherlands and so on, or maybe the discussion should be which neighborhoods can be saved or which should be moved to another place. Maybe that discussion should be also open to the community, because in our case study, we analyzed that by 2050, this place we flooded 75 days a year, and by 2100, a whole year. That means that no one could be able to live here. So it's only in a future of 80 years. So that discussion maybe should be open and start thinking about the future. That was my thoughts.
Yes, of course, please.
I forget who along the way suggested that we move the steamship authority, the landing of the boat, like somewhere down towards the Rotary, towards the marsh. And that you'd also, with that, you could then take the town and make it more of a walkable town and not have the trucks and that effect, but how possibly cost effective, and just something else. I forgot who, there was somewhere along the way, somebody talked about that could be a possibility. And then you could then retain the historic character and have places where the water can go and not be the central transportation. So just a possibility.
There is a question here on the chat.
Yeah.
From Craig Mulhauser, to all groups. The question is, how many of the countermeasures identified in this research and recommendations are reflected in the town of Nantucket future planning and NHA's strategy and capital plans for the next 5 years? I give you the stage.
Well, that's a great segue for me because I'm about to duck out into a meeting with Craig and our talking about our budget. But it's a great question and one that we are increasingly looking at and trying to think about as an organization. It's programs like this that are giving us some of the information we need to better help make those decisions. We are trying to take a holistic approach to our property portfolio and begin to take this approach to look at landscape, building material, the collections within what is happening right now that we can document and measure. And then how does that translate into a conservation plan? And what does that look like in terms of financial impact? So in some ways, we're just at the beginning of that process. And this is a really important part of that. I think there are things that I heard today, and I look forward to reading your reports more completely that will really help us in that regard. We have begun already doing some of that and thinking about how that translates in terms of material investigation, collections care, and overall financial impact. So I think we've begun that process, but this is just the beginning in some ways. And in some ways, I think it never ends. As conditions change and as we adjust our understanding, we've got to be nimble and we've got to remain flexible in terms of how we continue to forecast and how we have up-to-date financial impacts that we can make better decisions around. I think the town is doing some of that as well. I think some of what I've heard today has been discussed at the town level. One thing that I think is really critical, that's been said many times, is that the collection of stormwater and groundwater is pivotal for downtown. There are some easy things that can be done by the property owner, by the town of Nantucket, to better collect and direct stormwater that I think can make a massive difference to us, particularly in certain areas of key downtown, kind of a bathtub right where we are standing right now. And so how do we anticipate that? How do we shape that? How do we improve that? That has to be a collaborative effort with other organizations, with private property owners, and with the town itself. And I guess that kind of gets me to the last point I wanted to make before I have to duck into that meeting. I think, I don't know that we ever get out of this. I think this is the new normal in some ways, but I think it helps us identify steps we can take that will improve the situation. I think what we as an organization can do is one thing. I think what we as a couple of organizations in town can do. I think what we as the town and a couple of organizations on the entire island is one thing, but it obviously goes beyond that. And I think one of the things that I like about this program so much is that all of you are going back to your homes and doing the same thing. And so you're working independently and a little bit wider with your local town and government or with other organizations or with your country. And then it's how do we connect that? How do we work together? I think the only way we improve this is how do we work together? And that's at the local level, and that's at the national level, and that's at the international level. And so what I take away from this is that we have only just begun. And I'm grateful for the work that you have done during the past several weeks. And I'm especially excited about the work we will do going forward. So with that, I'm gonna duck out. I hope conversation will continue. Again, my thanks to all of you on behalf of the NHA, on behalf of Nantucket, for your dedication and hard work over the last several weeks here on the island. Looking forward to tomorrow's discussion where we get to hear about your work. And again, what I love to hear is how your experience here maybe has shifted some of your thinking or how you're now looking anew at the problems and the projects that you're working on back home. And I hope that you'll carry that with you. So my thanks to all of you for that. Ashley, thank you. Ashley Kipley, my thanks to you for coordinating so much over the last several weeks. Thank you.